Let's talk about a company you think you know, Rocket Lab. But you know what? The story that most people have in their heads about them, it's totally, completely obsolete. So let's break down what's really going on.
Everything really kicked off late last year. While most of the market was kind of winding down for the holidays, Rocket Lab's stock just exploded. It shot up an incredible 65% in a single month. Now, a move that big, it doesn't just happen by accident. That's a signal.
And that really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. See, this wasn't just some random rally. This was the market finally waking up to a fundamental transformation that had happened right under everyone's noses. A huge shift from just a small rocket company to something, well, something much, much bigger.
This quote just sets the stage perfectly. The real question here isn't about chasing a stock price that's already moved. It's about whether you understand the company that is literally building the architecture for the space economy of the 2030s.
So, to really get what's happening now, we have to officially put the old story to bed. The common narrative about Rocket Lab, it's dead. For years, this was the story, right? Rocket Lab was the reliable but small alternative to SpaceX. They had the Electron rocket, kind of like a space taxi for small satellites. A respectable business, for sure, but not exactly a world-changing one. Well, that story is now basically a historical footnote. So what killed that old narrative? It was this contract. Rocket Lab didn't just win another bid, it graduated. It became a prime contractor for the United States government. That puts them in the same league as the absolute giants of the defense industry.
Let's just talk about the scale here for a second. $816 million. This single contract from the Space Development Agency, or SDA, is a moment that redefines the entire company. So what exactly is the SDA?
Well, the SDA is basically the Pentagon's answer to this whole new space race. Instead of building a few, giant school bus-sized satellites that cost billions, they're building a massive constellation of hundreds of smaller, cheaper, and, crucially, replaceable ones. It's a complete strategic shift, and Rocket Lab is right at the center of it.
Okay, so this is the absolute key point. This is not a launch contract. This is a manufacturing contract. Rocket Lab is being paid to design and build the satellites themselves. This fundamentally changes the business from just a service provider to a full-blown industrial powerhouse.
And what all this really reveals is that Rocket Lab isn't one company anymore, it's two. It's more like a two-engine machine. And right now, both of those engines are firing at full throttle. So first, you've got the engine we all know, launch. The Electron rocket had a perfect year, 21 successful missions. And its sibling, HASTE, is quietly becoming this huge profit machine, selling premium flights to the Pentagon. This division, it's the bedrock of their credibility. But it's not the growth story anymore. This is the new reality, laid out in the numbers. Just look at this revenue split. Over 70% of the company's money now comes from its space systems division, the part that actually builds the satellites. The market still sees a launch company, but the financials, they're telling a completely different story. I mean, this number is just staggering for a hardware company. 37% gross margin, that's closer to what you'd see from a software company. So how are they pulling this off? Vertical integration. They build almost everything themselves, in-house. The reaction wheels, the solar panels, the flight software. They capture the profit at every single step of the supply chain.
Okay, let's address the elephant in the room, shall we? The Neutron rocket. Its first launch got pushed back a little bit, and yeah, some people might see that as a weakness, but if you actually look closer, it's a sign of incredible discipline.
So yes, the timeline has shifted by a few months, but the real key here is why. They are deep in the weeds on the most complex part of the whole development, qualifying their brand new reusable Archimedes engine. And this is the question, isn't it? The one that sends a shiver down investor spines. Is this just another classic aerospace delay story? The answer is a pretty firm no. This is a calculated business decision. Think about it. A premature launch that destroys their launch pad would be a year-long, financially devastating setback. By taking just a few extra months to get the engine perfect, they're protecting the entire company. That's the move of a mature company, not some reckless startup. So when you start putting all these pieces together, the huge manufacturing contracts, the insane margins, the disciplined engineering, a whole new picture starts to emerge. Rocket Lab isn't just launching rockets anymore.
They are building the entire industrial base for the new space age.
I mean, just look at these numbers. This is a fortress balance sheet. Over $1 billion in cash, over $1 billion in confirmed future work, rapidly growing revenue, and those software-like margins. This gives them the runway to execute their vision without any financial pressure. And while they've been busy building this fortress, the competitive landscape has just collapsed. All those other small launch companies from a few years ago, most of them are gone or totally irrelevant now. Rocket Lab is now in a near monopoly position for reliable, dedicated small launch.
This next analogy just perfectly captures their business model. You could say Rocket Lab essentially owns the iOS of space. They aren't just selling you a phone, they're selling the hardware, the operating system, and the App Store all in one tidy package.
And this is how it works. A customer can come to them with just an idea. Rocket Lab can then design the satellite, build it with their own components, launch it on their own rocket, and even operate it for them. You see, the end goal isn't just to sell launches. It's to sell high-margin, recurring data services.
And finally, there's the big picture geopolitical angle. The U.S. government cannot and will not rely on a single company for its access to space. They need a second, reliable commercial option. Rocket Lab is no longer just another contractor. It's a strategic national asset.
So let's end with this thought. The old story was about a company launching small things into space. The new reality is a vertically integrated giant that is building the rails, the engines, and the stations for the entire off-world economy. The question is no longer if they'll succeed, but just how vast their new empire will become.